Hi guys, welcome back to Ferris Tutorials. In today's episode, we're looking at section 7, food management, preparation and service. And we're zooming on the topic food preparation skills. And in today's episode, we're exploring the topic herbs and spices used in food preparation. Want to find out more? Stay tuned. CSEC Food, Nutrition and Health. We're looking at content 7, which is entitled Food Management, Preparation and Service. And in today's episode, we're exploring herbs and spices used in food preparation. Now, let's take a look at our focus points. So, we'll be looking at a definition of herbs, spices, the importance of herbs and spices, guidelines for the selection and appropriate use of herbs and spices, and also the uses of herbs and spices in dishes. Now, let's get started with the definition of herbs. Herbs may be defined as edible leaves, stems, or flowers of an aromatic plant. It can be fresh or dried and is used in small amounts to add flavor to dishes, right? Now let's slow it down a bit. So herbs may be defined as edible leaves, so what we can eat, the leaves, the stems, the flowers of what? An aromatic plant. That means it has a particular aroma, that particular smell. Now herbs can be both fresh, as in picked freshly from the garden, or they can be dried, so they may go through the food preservation process of dehydration to remove that moisture from the herb, right? And it is used in small amounts, and what it does, it adds flavor to dishes. Good. All right, now let's take a look at the types of herbs, and these are just some types, and based on what the definition that we just looked at. Remember, herbs, it can be what, the leaves of the plant, the stem, and also the flower of the plant that has been harvested, right? Now let's take a look at some of these herbs. They are not these are not all the herbs, but these are just some that we're going to look at in today's session, right? There is thyme, rosemary, dill, tarragon, chives, coriander, bay leaves, sage, basil, oregano, mint, and also parsley, right? Those are examples of herbs. So remember, any flavorful plant, right? It may be the flower, it may be the leaves or the stem of the plant, and these particular plants, they are used in small amounts, and what they do is to add flavor to food. And remember that they are aromatic, right? So they have very strong smell, right? Now that we have been introduced to these types of herbs, let us now take a look to see what they are best used for, right? And also to name that herb. So we are matching the name with the actual picture of these herbs, right? And the first one we have here is basil, and this is mainly used in the Indian cooking, right? Now there's also bay leaves that is used in soups, stews, meats. They are used, the whole leaves are used, but they are what? They are also removed before they are served, right? There is cilantro, which is often used in Mexican food, Thai food, in sauces, salsa. There's also chives that we use in potatoes for garnishes, seafood, and also soups. Now, these may be similar. Some may be similar more than the other to you, depending on the region where you're from or depending on the country where you're from, right? Awesome. Let us look at some more. We have dill, and it is often used in fish, potatoes, pickles, dips, carrots, bread. There is also oregano, which is used in Italian food again, Mexican foods, also pizzas and spaghettis. There's also the mint that is used in dessert items, right? In lamb and also as a tea for beverage, right? There's also the parsley used for garnish, meat, using meat cookery, cheese, salad, etc. All right. Now, there's also rosemary, which is used in chicken, seafood, mushroom, and vegetables. There is sage, which is used on pork, turkey, in some stuffing, and also mushrooms, right? There is tarragon that is used in chicken, eggs, mushroom, and seafood, and also thyme, good, which is used for meat, poultry, mushrooms, nuts, potatoes, and you name it, right? Now, these are just some types of herbs and what they are popularly dishes that they are popularly used in, good, or they're most famous for using in. And I know that you may be able to name a few of your own as well. So ensure that we know different types of herbs, so we know what are herbs, the different types, and how what we can use them in, what dishes we can use them in. Now guys, let us move on to spices, and we're starting with the definition. Now, spices may be defined as the bark, root, seeds, buds, or berries of an aromatic plant, right? Spices are usually dried, such as ground or whole, but can also be fresh, such as ginger. Good. Now, learning the definition of spices, I know you're able to tell the difference between a herb and spice, and also the similarities between herbs and spices. Good. So similarities, both of them are derived from plants. The difference is the part of the plant that is used. So for herbs, remind me of the different parts. So we speak of the leaves, the stem, and the flower of the plant, right? Those are used for herbs. As it relates to spices, it is either the bark of the plant, the root, the bulbs, or the berries. Good. And these can be dried, such as ground, so we can ground them into powder. So powdery substance based on what you're seeing there on your screen, or they can be whole, right? And also they can be dried in some cases, such as pimento berries, or fresh, such as an example there is ginger. All right. Now let us look further on some different types of spices. So we have the dill seed there, we have fennel, we have cumin, we have saffron, celery, red pepper, black pepper, good, caraway, allspice, cinnamon, white pepper, anise, clove, ginger, turmeric, coriander, paprika, garlic, nutmeg, poppy seed, mustard seed, and also sesame seed, just to name a few, right? So these are examples of spices. Now let us look in detail on what some food items that these spices are used on. Good. Now the first one we're starting off is pepper. So we have black pepper, and there's also white pepper, right? So these are berries picked green, darkened, and shriveled upon drying. Good. And as it relates to white pepper, the berries are ripened on the vine and the outer hull is removed, right? So that is how we get white pepper versus black pepper, right? And it is the most widely spice used today. All right, there's also cayenne, right? And any food, but can also add a lot of heat, right? So cayenne can be used on any food, and it adds what? A lot of heat. There's also chili powder, which is a blend of cumin, garlic, onion, and chili. Good. All right, so the next spices that we're looking at are cinnamon. Good, and these may be familiar to you as well. Some may or some may not, as I said before, depending on the country or the region that you are from, right? So as it relates to cinnamon, it is one of the oldest and most valuable spices, and it is used for what? Dessert items. Good. It is used in making porridges as well. Good. There's also cloves, which are immature flower buds that are used on meats, stocks, sauces, and also for baking. There is a coriander, and these are cilantro seeds, and they are used in a variety of savory and baked foods. There's also the cumin, and these seeds are used crushed in Mexican foods and also in chilies, right? There's also the ginger. Good. Ginger is also a spice, and it is a root of the plant. So remember, when we're talking about spice, it may be the bark of the plant, it may be the bulb or the root or the berry. Good. There's also nutmeg and seed kernel inside of fruit, and they are used in baking, in cheese, eggs, and Alfredo, depending on what some persons use them also in beverages as well and in porridges. There's also the paprika, right? And these are finely ground powder from dried pepper. They are used for garnishes, salads, sausages, casseroles. And the poppy seed from the poppy flower is used for what? Baking and also in salad dressing. Awesome. Now let us turn our attention to look at the importance of herbs and spices, right? So herbs, and I know you are able to tell the importance based on those definitions, based on the foods that they are used for. I know you should be able to tell me the importance of herbs and spices, right? All right, let us add to what you already know. So herbs and spices are important because they add unique flavor and aroma to food. 2, they contribute to color and also add variety to meals. Good. 3, they protect us from acute and chronic diseases, right? How many times someone may be feeling ill, right? Or someone may be feeling upset, and a little ginger tea, a little mint tea, whatever the case is, a little cayenne that helps to boost the immune system. Good. So these the herbs and spices also protect us from acute and chronic diseases. Good. As well as I said before, it contribute to color of your meal, and therefore contributing to color would also add variety, right? And as we said before, it gives unique flavor, gives off aroma, good aroma as well to the food. All right. Now let us look at the guidelines for using herbs and spices. And we have 5 guidelines here, right? So 1, store dried herbs and spices in a cool, tightly covered, in opaque containers, right? So we store dried herbs and spices in a cool place, tightly covered in opaque containers. Good. So heat, light, and moisture caused herbs and spices to deteriorate rapidly. So because we don't want these herbs and spices to serve, they can serve up to 6 months. Good. And the flavor will be there as well. So we get best quality within 6 months. We also have to store properly and follow these guidelines so that the herbs and spices will get our value for money. Good. Or we'll get the best quality of the product when we're using it. All right, next guideline. Whole spices take longer to release flavors than ground spices. So whole spices, whereas let's think about the peppercorn or the pepper grain, right? The black pepper, right? So black pepper, it can also be whole like the pimento, or it can be ground into powder, right? Let us also look at the cinnamon stick versus the cinnamon powder as well. What this guideline is saying is that spices will take longer to release their flavor if they are whole. Good. So therefore, those spices will need adequate cooking time for the flavor to develop. Our next guideline: whole herbs and spices for flavoring a liquid should be tied loosely in a piece of cheesecloth, right, for easy removal. And this is called a sachet. Good. So when we tie whole herbs and spices in, and we're going to add it to, for example, it may be soup, It may also be porridges, depending on what we're preparing. It may be stews. Good. It may be stock. What we do is to tie these herbs and spices in a cheesecloth bag, and it is the proper name for that is called a sachet, right? So it's right here in bracket, guys. A sachet for easy removal. All right, next guideline. Herbs and spices added to uncooked foods such as salads and dressings need several hours for flavors to be released and blended. So no heat is applied, and therefore when heat is applied, the more flavor will be excreted from the herb or the spice. Good. So what this is saying, so when we're using uncooked foods, for example salad, then it may take a while, or salad dressing, it may take a while for these flavors to be released. So we prepare ahead of time and allow all those flavors to be released in our products, all right, or our meal or our dish. Final guideline: taste foods before serving whenever possible, right? How else can you adjust the seasoning or the flavoring? We have to taste when we're cooking, right? Awesome. So these are 5 guidelines for using herbs and spices, and make sure you know at least 3 of these guidelines. All right, just in case you may get a question that asks you about guidelines for using herbs and spices. Now we're at our summary. Herbs and spices come from different parts of the plant. So guess what? It's all about the part of the plant that tells the difference between herbs and spices. A herb is the green leafy part of the plant. Examples are basil, rosemary, sage, thyme, parsley, and oregano. Good. A spice can come from the root, stem, seed, flower, fruit, or bark of the tree or plant. Example: cinnamon, ginger, black pepper, anise, and turmeric. With that said, a plant can be host to both what? Herbs and spices at the same time. Now, sometimes a plant can produce both a herb and a spice. The classic example is like what? Cilantro and coriander, right? Now guys, cilantro is the aromatic leaf of the plant, while coriander is the seed which comes from the same plant. All right, now that's the summary. Let us move on to our activity. Good. And the first question we have here: give one example of a herb and one example of a spice during food preparation. And that's 2 marks. And this question came on the 2013 examination paper. Good. Next question: state the difference between herbs and spices. 4 marks. You may also be asked, a question may say, list 3 guidelines to follow when using herbs and spices. And it may also ask you to name a particular herb or a particular spice that is suitable for a particular dish. You are awesome. You've made it to the end of the session. Please remember to subscribe, turn on your post notification bells, watch those ads, like, comment, and don't forget to share with persons who you know will find this information useful. Thank you for making it Fairies Tutorials.